Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Drive Time. Hopefully, the first one didn't actually show up anywhere. I don't know. I think I thought I hit the wrong button and I was doing just a recording and not doing the live stream. So hopefully, this one is a live stream and people can actually finally see this. So that's my hope anyway. But it's been that was funny there. Maybe the first one that you're going to see is literally just the intro and then me leaving and saying peace out. So if I did screw that up, guys, I'm sorry. And if I didn't, then I'm now just making fun of myself, and we're going to pretend like we know what we're doing anyway. So we're still getting the hang of everything here. So anyway, welcome to episode 3 of Drive Time, everybody. Hopefully this is showing, as we say. So it's been an interesting little day here trying to get this all set up here, but we should be on now. And anyway, to start off the show, what I want to do, I didn't play this to start, but they made me a little intro. So it's kind of fun, but I wanted to play it and first just thank the guys for doing this. And then probably this is what we'll show to start the show every time moving forward on it. But anyway, here's the official Drive Time intro, but I wanted to give it the proper intro for the first time of showing it. Because needless to say, I'm geeked out about it, but at the same time, I know I look like a complete dork in it too, but that is par for the course for me looking like a dork anyway. So here's our true intro. I just laugh every time I see that. I'm a dork, so I hope you like it. I appreciate it, guys, for you guys putting that together for me. Um, but I just wanted to give it the proper intro for the first time of showing this. So we're going to hopefully try some things here today, coming to you from here, from my downstairs area. So hopefully this will work. But with that being said, let's get right into the show, shall we? Because we got a lot to cover in just a little bit of time. But of course, we're going to start with what jersey am I wearing today? Now, we know the Four Nations tournament starts today. So of course, I had to go with one of my Team USA jerseys. This one is the vintage Mike Richter, number 35. This is from the 1996 World Cup team. Once upon a time, the NHL did what was called the World Cup of Hockey, and the USA actually won this tournament, mostly because of Mike Richter and the way that he stood on his head. So with the Four Nations tournament that's going to be getting underway, and we'll talk a lot more about that later on in the show. Of course, I had to go with this jersey because what other jersey was I going to pick going into this week as we get into the Four Nations tournament of the NHL break that's coming up. So that is, of course, the jersey for today. And now it's time to take that look in the rearview mirror. And of course, we got plenty to get to with Super Bowl 59 and the anthem and all that great stuff too. So we're going to get to that. But of course, first things first, what we want to dig into is the college basketball season and the college hoops that happened over the weekend. I'm not going to touch a lot on it. I can't wait to see tomorrow's show with Jack and his top 10 and see what the new changes are there. But on the men's side, we did have a couple of the big upsets at the top. Auburn lost to number 6 Florida in a fantastic close game. That was fun to watch. I did get to see a little bit of that. Florida beat Auburn both at home and the road, and it's the first time that's happened where the team was number 1 in both games that they lost in a long time. Number 2 Duke also lost to Clemson 77-71. So the top 2 teams both went down on the men's side. On the women's side, I would be distraught if I did not mention the fact that there was a bit of history made. Number 2 South Carolina lost to number 4 Texas. That ends their 57-game conference win streak, which is just a crazy streak in and of itself to think about, that they've won 57 games in the SEC before losing to Texas. UCLA is number 1 on the women's side. They are now 23-0. Notre Dame goes to number 2. It's their highest ranking since 2019. Texas moves up to 3, and of course South Carolina goes to 4. So that is all there now. Looking to see here, somebody's just trying to chime in here, seeing if they can get in or not on it. So but I thought that was really interesting. I mean, South Carolina's just dominated the SEC for so long, and they still are. I mean, they've only lost 2 games all year. So hopefully they can get there. That's just going to be fun seeing how that all plays out on the women's side. So on the NBA, Anthony Davis finally played his first game for Dallas. They did win that game, but of course he got hurt in the third quarter, and it looks like he's going to be out for at least a couple of weeks. It's interesting about that whole entire trade with trading away Lukic, and they talked about his conditioning, and yet you trade a player that seems to get injured for another player that seems to get injured. So I hope it works out for Dallas and for Anthony Davis. But it's just interesting that he finally plays his first game, and we go from there. So um, we'll see how that all plays out, and hopefully here they get everything figured out here. The Lakers are on quite a roll. They have won 5 in a row. They're now 31-19. They even won their last game without LeBron and Lucic. And I don't know. I just got a gut feeling something about this team um, that I think they could do it. I don't know. It's just a vibe I'm getting from the Lakers that I think they might surprise some people come playoff time, but we'll see how that all goes. I forgot to do my little NBA nuggets here. So there's that. So next, I'd be remorse if I did not talk a little bit about the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. The guys did a good job of breaking it down. Eric Allen got in. This was his 19th year of eligibility, which is kind of crazy to me. Jared Allen got in his 5th year. Sterling Sharp got in off the seniors finalists, and of course Antonio Gates got in. Now I'm going to brag a little bit about Antonio Gates because for those of you that don't know, I am a very proud Kent State grad, and you probably do know because I talk about it quite a bit whenever I can bring up Kent State. It's usually on the bad side because our football team is just god awful. And to further show how bad our football team is Antonio Gates, who is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as one of the best tight ends, to play the game. He, has 4th most receptions in the NFL, or has a tight end at 955. He has the most touchdowns at 116. I had him in one of my fantasy league teams. Always loved having having him on my team just because of the touchdowns that he would produce. He never played football at Kent State. So that goes to tell you where our football team is at. It's crazy. He never played a single game, for for us there. So with that said, he did get to, though, there's 2 big moments for Kent State sports. One occurred in 2012, and that was our baseball team making it to the College World Series. And with that team getting to the College World Series, they actually won a game. They beat Florida in one of those games. That's moment number 2. Number 1, Antonio Gates was a big part of, and that was the Kent State run in the Elite Eight back in 2002. So it's been a while. It's been 23 years now, but he almost single-handedly defeated Pittsburgh to get them into the Elite Eight in the Sweet 16 game, and he damn near did it to Indiana too. Just ran out of gas against a really strong Indiana team, or else they would have made it to the Final Four. But that was back before some of these mid-major teams that have had their runs since. Kent State was kind of the first, which I've always, been so proud of that. So with that said, I just have to say a shout out to Antonio Gates from the Kent State University. Just so proud of him and so happy for him. And he was at they did a little thing at the game on Saturday that they had at Kent State and honored him and stuff. And his number, of course, retired. So it's a bit of a buzz here in Northeast Ohio. So we are very happy for him for that. So with that, we've got a lot to get to. And with that, we need to get into the anthems, right, of the Super Bowl. So first and foremost, I want to, John Baptiste did the anthem yesterday. He's from New Orleans. The piano that he had looked awesome. Overall, I liked his voice. I'm just not a fan of adding lines, and he repeated a line a couple different times. So that's, always going to bring the score down for me as far as my anthem reviews. What I like in the anthem is just come out, sing the song, sing it how it's supposed to be sang, and, just deliver it well. So overall, I was very happy with him. So what I've decided to do for the show here on Drive Time is, I'm going back to my, because sometimes on there when I put out in the chat in the comments, I'll give a letter grade, but I'm going back to my 50-point scale. Okay, so 10 points for excitability. You're going to get 10 points, for pitch. You're going to get 10 points for range. You're going to get 10 points for the speed, and then up to 10 points for style. So the max score, of course, is 50. I gave him an 8 for excitability because I thought he came off very well. You got a 10 for range and pitch because the dude can sing. I mean, it was just really well done. Speed for 7, just because, again, he added in lines, and I gave him a style for 7. So total score that I gave him was 42. The year before, I gave Reba 43, and we're going to do a little fun thing, because what I did is I decided to go back and watch every anthem I possibly could find, and this is where YouTube comes in very, very handy for us all, right? So I was able to pull up the anthems, and give me one quick little second, because what I am going to do real quick is pull up my anthem review sheet. So I watched every single anthem. Now, what I found with doing this was it actually part of me. It was a little sad, because you go through and you watch some of these anthems, and you see some players that aren't with us anymore, like Reggie White, and you go back to some of the old ones, and there was an old Raider one with Lyle Alzado that was in there, so you see some of these players that have passed on, unfortunately. So that is a little sad to see. When you hit some of these, the older ones, I'll admit, there is some stuff that is just not good as far as the quality of video goes. So that has some of it to do. And even the early on ones mostly were just done with the band, and either the crowd was singing along or there was a lot of trumpets. So like the first five, there really wasn't anything to grade, because yes, if a band plays, I could, I guess, still do range and pitch, but I don't think you can do the full 50 points on it. So those ones don't count. There was a couple that I couldn't find. Phyllis Kelly did Super Bowl 12. I couldn't find that one. There was a New Orleans Barbershop Quartet, I guess, that did Super Bowl 9. I could not find that anywhere to give it a full review. So with that, though, I did do what I could do. All right. And so this is it. These were the worst. The bottom ones. Most of them scored between 40 to 45. That's that's solid if you were doing a grading scale. That being that B to low A range. By far, the worst anthem that I saw was the one from Super Bowl 45. And I honestly kind of forgot about how bad she screwed this up, but that was the Christina Aguilera one. She scored only a 30 out of the 50. She messed up the words. She basically was screaming the last few lines. It was just awful. So, congratulations, Christina Aguilera. You have won the worst anthem that I've seen in the Super Bowl. Now, these are, of course, just the Super Bowl. I'm only ranking Super Bowl anthems here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll maybe do another show later where we get into best all-time sports national anthems, but this is just from the Super Bowl for me. I'm going to cover two other of the worst that you'll have to check out. If you can find the clip, Super Bowl 21, Neil Diamond, and this hurts because I love Neil Diamond. Sweet Caroline, one of the all-time favorites. Coming to America, a great song. Like, he's a great artist. I don't know. They must have had him on like a pitch clock or something in this anthem, because it was like the fastest anthem I've ever seen. He's just up there. Oh, say, can you see? It's like this record fast pace anthem. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So with that, he only got a 38 out of that. It just was so weird and fast. I don't know what he was doing. The next worst one is Super Bowl 10 with some guy named Tom Sullivan. I'll be honest, never even heard of him before. But it was like weird. It was like with this chorus, and they're wearing these weird colors, and the chorus would sing a part, then he would sing a part. None of them necessarily singing well. It was really, really bad. That was a really bad one too. But what's really crazy and cool is, like, watching back, like, we've had some damn good anthems in the Super Bowl, which I guess you would hope you'd have, right? You hope that people that came out would sing it well. But we had a great run. American Idols had a lot of people, like Jordan Sparks has been on, Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood. One of the top ones, Jennifer Hudson, has been on. So it's really, really cool watching those ones. We have had some old ones. Diana Ross, did one. Vanessa Williams, Faith Hill, the Backstreet Boys, which I totally forgot that the Backstreet Boys did it. And it's funny, when I was getting ready to watch, it's like, oh, this is gonna suck. They actually were pretty good. I thought they did a pretty good job on the anthem. Kelly Clarkson, of course, is doing. Billy Joel has done it twice. Aaron Neville has also done the anthem twice, once solo, and then once he did it with Aretha Franklin. But then there's some sad ones too, like Luther Vandross, who did a really, really good anthem. He would be in my top 10 all time on the anthems if as we did that. His anthem was just spectacular, and that just made me miss Luther Vandross even more, because I always loved him. Beyonce did an anthem back in her early days, and hers was really good. Faith Hill had a really good one. So, like, most of the anthems, if I'm honest, have been really, really good. Sorry, my cat just knocked something over. So that's what happens here in this household all the time. Most of the anthems were really, really good. So if I had to do which I think you have to do. You have to cover the best Super Bowl anthems, right? And there were five. There are three that scored a 48. I'm not going to show those clips. I'm going to try to show the top two. Demi Lovato was these three all scored a 48, and I'll be honest with you, I forgot the Demi Lovato one, and I forgot how good it was until I listened to it earlier today. She just delivered it. It was just amazing. Really, really well done. Carrie Underwood, her anthem was amazing, and then Jennifer Hudson. Those are my numbers 3, 4, and 5. They all scored a 48 out of the 50 possible points. And the reason why, when we get to number one, you're going to know it. I mean, let's just be. I assume that you'll know it. And that's the only one that's going to score 50 for me. Like, if it's just because if I'm doing these Super Bowl ones, you're only getting 150, and that's the best one. And that was why we're going to do that. Now I'm going to try this. I don't know if this is going to work or not because I can only show a certain bit. If this works, we're going to see. But I think I figured out how to do this, and I think I figured out also how to have it so that it would show that. Let's see here, and do the sound. So let's see here. Now all of a sudden it's not showing that I can share the sound for some reason. So never mind. We're not going to do that because it says it's not going to share the sound. So number two is, of course, Chris Stapleton. He got a 49 out of 50. That was from the last Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl. Just delivered it out of the park. If you guys get a chance to see that one is one of the best ones out there. Of course, number one is the standard of all national anthems. If I probably did ever do a top 10 national anthems from any sport, it's going to be number one, and it's the Whitney Houston one from Super Bowl 25. Just YouTube it; it's worth the view. You have to see it. And I'm sure once you see it, you're gonna be, oh yeah, I remember it. I mean, just the way she delivers it, it's just effortless. It's just done so perfectly. You got the orchestra playing behind her. You've got the crowd into it. You get the flyover at the end. I mean, everything about it is picture perfect that it can be for national anthems. So it is just absolutely well done. I can't express how well done it is. So, it's just an anthem that is beyond reproach as far as I'm concerned. Um, so there you have it. Those are my best Super Bowl anthems. So be curious to see what everyone else thinks out there when you watch the show back. And that gets us, of course, to the game in and of itself, right? We did have a Super Bowl that was played last night, Super Bowl 59. The Philadelphia Phillies, yeah, they wish that they won it. The Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. This was, an interesting game, right? And it all starts with Vic Fangio, the defense coordinator for Philly, who had never beaten Pat Mahomes, and boy, did he make up for that. He was 0 for 9. The game kind of starts with the soft calls each way. They're both probably penalties. I think they're both probably ones that both teams you'd like to not see called in the Super Bowl. And I know I was guilty of it too when the first one happened, where Casey gets the break where they call pass interference on A.J. Brown, which looking back, it probably was the right call. But we all start thinking, oh no, here we go. Kansas City's going to get every call. But then on the next drive for Philly, they get kind of a questionable, call that goes their way. So Philly gets up 7-0. Then they get the field goal. They're up 10-0. And then you remember, oh yeah, the last three Super Bowls that KC has been in, they've been down to 10-0 and won them. So you're like, okay, you're just kind of waiting for Mahomes to do what Mahomes does. And Mahomes never did. It was just so crazy. Like, I've never seen the Kansas City Chiefs get their ass kicked like that, to be honest with you. Just never have seen that happen like it did. Just crazy, what happened in that game. Um, and we could do the stats through the whole game, but there's really no point because let's be honest, this game was over at the half. And when you look at the stats at the halftime, especially the stats for Kansas City, you're just like, my eyes still drop when I see it. Mahomes was 6 for 14 for 33 yards and 2 interceptions. They only ran the ball 3 times in the first half. 3 times. They only ran the ball 3 times in the first half. It was just crazy, what happened in that game. Um, Barkley only had 31 yards rushing at the half, and really throughout the whole game, I think Kansas City did a great job on Saquon Barkley. But what they didn't do was they didn't do a good job on the rest of the guys. I mean, Jalen Hurts won that Super Bowl. He won the MVP, and he deserved that. Saquon Barkley gets to give the big FU to the Giants, which I always think is fun too. Um, we'll go from there. So it was just a really good game, and I think it was, fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the commercials. It wasn't quite as good as some years past, but there were some funny ones. The first one that kind of caught my eye was the Pfizer one right at the beginning. And look, I'm not a big pharma person, but the kid's story got to me. And especially when they show the pictures of him recovering from cancer, those got to me. I thought that was at least a well done commercial. The funniest one was the Seal Mountain Dew commercial. I laughed out loud on that one. Um, there was one with a bunch of old ladies. I don't even remember what it's for, which is probably not a good sign. But I thought that one was really funny. The Beckham one was pretty good too, and then the Bud Light cul-de-sac one I thought was those were the best commercials of the show. Um, on the halftime show, Kendrick was fine. I'll admit that's not my genre of music, but it was good. I saw a lot of, there's a lot of people that were either it seemed to be one that people hated or loved. Um, there's some people out there saying it was the best halftime show ever, and I'm sorry, it was not the best halftime show ever. There's only one name for the best halftime show ever. It starts and ends with Prince. Period. That's it. Prince is number one. That's the best halftime show ever. Um, no one will ever beat Prince. For those that don't know me, I have a very big love of Weird Al, and I still think Weird Al Yankovic would make a great halftime show. I want it. I want to see it one of these years. I think it'd be hysterical. I think it'd be funny because he would get to totally do all the costume changes from the different songs. He could almost do parodies just of songs from people that have played in the Super Bowl. It could just be absolutely hysterical. So come on, NFL, give me my dream and have Weird Al be in the halftime show one of these years. I think it just would be great. But all right, enough of the Super Bowl. We've covered that. The other little last thing up here, it does appear that the Saints will have their coach. Their coach was in this game. They're the last team not to hire the coach. Everyone seems to believe it is going to be Kellen Moore, so he's going to be one and done as the OC at the Eagles, and he's going to take that right on to being the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So he doesn't have to go far. At least the game was right there, so he probably can just stay there and get going on stuff. It's interesting though watching these type of the games, like these big games like this. You know, we get into baseball season. You guys will see I'm a Cleveland Guardians fan. Um, and obviously since the Guardians haven't won a World Series in forever, I've never seen them win one, and it just makes me really, really sad because I'm like, God damn it, do I want to see that so bad? And it's not even much for me. My wife and son are bigger Guardians fans than I am, and well, he's my adopted son. I only say that because I wasn't around during the time when he was very young. But he has this heart condition. He's had some heart surgeries, and he's doing really well now. So that's not the part of it. But their bond has always been Cleveland baseball, and I just want to see those two celebrate World Series like nothing else. Like I just want to see that happen one of these days, and just so I can sit back and watch those two celebrate it. So I keep hoping, but watching Philly win it yesterday and watching the Philly fans and seeing some of the Philly fans' reactions today, it brings me down a little bit just because I'm like, God, one of these years, the Guards have been so close some of these years, but we'll get into that when we get into baseball season. So enough of that. It is time for our always fun segment of Drive into the Net. And we always are going to start this with our OV watch and our OV update. The NHL is in the start of its 2-week break for the Four Seasons tournament. We'll get into that here shortly, but I do want to cover where Ovi is at. He's now at 26 goals. He's played 39 games. The team's played obviously more from his injuries, so he needs 15 to tie Wayne Gretzky, 16 to break Gretzky. He's on pace to score 44 goals, so that would be 18 more goals, and he's right around that projection to still do it against Columbus right now at home with the third to last game of the season. This kind of flip-flops because they actually have a home and home with Columbus where they play the night before in Columbus as well. So if you're in the DC area, I would recommend that if you really want to try to see this record live, you should get the tickets for probably the last 3 or 4 home games before the prices just start really going through the roof when people start realizing that that's when it could happen. So a little tip there from me to you to help with that. So with that, the NHL is in its break right now. So I do want to kind of look at the current NHL standings and where we're at. And it's really, really interesting because there are two teams that are running away, one with the East and one in the West. And we'll start in the West because I want to save the East for all those Capital fans out there. The team running away at the West is the Winnipeg Jets. They are number one in the Central Division with 81 points. Your number two team would actually, which because the way they do this weird, the way they do the weird seedings is the number two team would still be the number one from the other division, which would be the Edmonton Oilers, even though they only have 72 points as well. So they are leading the Pacific Division right now. They are tied with the Vegas Golden Knights, 72 points, but the win percentage is higher for Edmonton. Long story short, that will all figure itself out, but that's just how the tiebreakers work for now. So in the Central, your top three teams are Winnipeg, Dallas, and Minnesota. In the Pacific, it's Edmonton, Vegas, and Los Angeles. Now, the way the playoffs work is two will always play three. So your potential matchup would be Dallas and Minnesota and Vegas against LA as of right now. Your two wild card teams are Colorado at 68 points and Vancouver at 63 points. So Vancouver would get to face Winnipeg and Colorado would play Edmonton in what would just be a crazy first round matchup if that holds true. We'll see how that goes, though, because third place in the Central is Minnesota at 70. Colorado's right behind them at 68. Lots of time for that to move. Outside looking in the West is Calgary at 60 points and Utah at 55, St. Louis at 55. Excuse me, Utah's at 57, St. Louis is at 55, and Anaheim at 54. Really on the outside looking in is Seattle at 52. Definitely the disappointing team of the year so far is the Nashville Predators. They added Steve Stamkos, they added a couple other guys, and they are sitting there at 19, 28, and 7 and only 45 points. Just a complete no-show this year in Nashville. I'm just so shocked by where that team is at. We flip up to the East. Number one in the Metro Division is, of course, the Washington Capitals. They are at 80 points, so they are a point behind Winnipeg for best overall in the NHL. But they are running away with the Metro Division. Second is Carolina at 70 points. Third is the New Jersey Devils at 68 points. Leading the Atlantic Division is Florida with 71 points, and then Toronto is next at 68, and Tampa Bay is third at 66 points. Your two wildcard teams right now are Ottawa at 62 and Detroit at 61. But right on their tail are a total of 7 teams between 60 and 55 points. The Columbus Blue Jackets and Boston Bruins have 60 points. The Rangers have 58. The Islanders have 57. Montreal, Pittsburgh, and Philly have 55. Really, the only team out of it is probably the Buffalo Sabres with 49 points. Every other team is right in this crazy that the East wild card is going to be a buckle up and watch. The Washington Capitals are 10 points ahead in the division with 30 games, with less than 30 games left. Really, it's going to take a collapse on Washington's part, or Carolina or New Jersey just getting bright red hot. But Washington should come out and on top. That means that Carolina and New Jersey are pretty much locked in at 2 and 3 because the next closest to them is 8 points back. So I think those three teams are pretty safe to make it in. Florida first in the Atlantic. Toronto and Tampa Bay right now are second and third. So Tampa Bay's got 68 points. Tampa is third. So those two teams would play each other. Your wild card winners, Ottawa would get Florida as of right now, and Washington would get Detroit. If the season ended today, that would be how it would shape up. But again, just hold your breath because every time these teams at the bottom of the wild card play, it's going to flip flop. You know, between Ottawa, Detroit, Columbus, Boston, the Rangers, the Islanders, Montreal, Pittsburgh, Philly. There's just a lot to go, and there's only 6 points that separate all those teams. And especially with the point for the overtime loss, you can make up points quickly and you can lose points quickly. So it's going to be fun to see, you know, where that all goes and where it all ends up. But that's where your standings are. And again, it's a 2-week break for the NHL. So there will be no NHL games for 2 weeks because we have our Four Nations tournament that is getting ready to get started. And this Four Nations tournament is going to be fun. I'm going to actually break down every game for you. But before that, if you remember the last episode, we kind of did the lineups and where people are at, as far as where the rosters goes. We did have some moves for some injuries, so there were some slight changes to the rosters. Canada adds Drew Doughty from LA. That's replacing Alex Pietrangelo. So that's the defenseman that's going on. Um, so that went really, really well, and it is, set to go. They're gonna be there for sure, when they get ready to go. Crosby seems to be good to go for them. So with that being said, really look for Canada's forward lines to be strong. Finland had to make a lot of moves with their defense. Jurko Vakinen from the Rangers gets added in. Henry Jokaguru from Buffalo and Nicholas Montopolo from Ottawa replace Miro Heiskanen, which is a big loss for Finland. He's one of the top defensemen. Also, Jani Hakapa is officially out, and Rasmus Ruotsalainen from Philly are all out. So Finland really did have to shape up their D again. And so it's going to be kind of crazy to see how that all plays out. I just don't know how their D is going to hold up. So it's going to be interesting to see here how that goes. For Sweden, they had to make one move too. They added Ricard Raquel from Pittsburgh. William Karlsson is out. So that's a big blow for Sweden, because Karlsson is a big name for sure. So that is one that's gonna hurt them. On the USA side, they did also have one too. They lose Quinn Hughes, so one of the Hughes brothers is out, and coming in is going to be Jake Sanderson from Ottawa. So I checked this out too, because this is what, now that they're starting to get to have some practices, with this, we can see where these lineups are looking. In practice today, for Sweden, the lines were Nylander, Zibanejad, and Raquel. So Raquel stepping right in and on their first line. Kempe, Pedersen, and Forsberg. Then you got Brack, Eriksson, Eck, and Raymond on the third line. Nyquist, Lindholm, and Arvidsson. The odd man out right now is Carlson. On their D, they've got Hedman, Brodin, Ekholm, and Carlson, Dahlin, and Anderson. Forsling was sick. I assume that he will not be a scratch for them, but he was sick, so he did not practice today. But he's going to be one that I would definitely expect to see. The lines for, I'm trying to pull these up here too. Here, give me 1 second here, because that's not the one here that I want. I was trying to find where his lines for Team USA were. Here they are. For Team USA, you had Connor, Eichel, and Matt Tkachuk on a line. Gensel, Matthews, and Hughes. That line is just crazy good. Brady Tkachuk, Miller, and Boldy. So the Tkachuk brothers are not playing together. Then the fourth line, you got Nelson and Trocheck, and Larkin and Kreider are rotating in and out. So that is kind of interesting there. So right now, Kreider might be the odd man out if you're looking at that. On D, it was Slavin and Fox. That's going to be the 1-2 punch. Werenski and McAvoy are the two. Hannafin and Faber were the third line, and Sanderson looks like he's going to be the odd man out. Each lineup, each roster has basically one extra forward, one D that will be sitting out and not be a part of that. So those are the big lines. I was trying to find Canada because I had them, and now they are. Let me see here. He's got them further down, so I apologize. This was further down than I thought it was going to be. Where is it? Let's just try it this way here, because I thought the lineups were pretty interesting here, what we're starting to see here. Canada. Sorry, here. I'm putting this in here as we go here. Four Nations. There we go. This should bring us up here. I want to see here, because their lines were pretty crazy here too. I know it's in here somewhere. I saw it earlier today. I just can't remember who the heck I saw it from. Okay, here it is. So their first line was McKinnon, McDavid with Hagel. Second, then they had a line with Jarvis, Marchant, and I think it was Reinhardt. Then they had Marner with Crosby and Point. Just crazy good. That their forwards are just going to be crazy. The whole problem though for Canada is going to be their goaltending. Their goaltending, I just don't think they're going to have the goaltending like the other ones are. So it's going to be fun to watch. So with that, let's get into a little bit of some predictions of how I think this thing is going to go for the Four Nations side. So the first game is February 12th, Canada versus Sweden. This game's going to be close. Both these teams are pretty evenly matched. I think though Sweden's going to win it, which will upset a lot of the Canadian folks. But I don't know why. I just got a funny feeling that Sweden's going to be able to pull it out. I'm going to take them 4-3 in overtime. So this is going to be an overtime game. Now remember, for this tournament, 3 points if you win in regulation, 2 points if you win in overtime. You get a point if you lose in overtime, and you get 0 if you lose in regulation. February 13th, USA against Finland. This could actually, I think, well, I believe it's going to be a preview for the final. I think these two teams will be the final. So in this first one, I think USA is able to take out Finland because it's going to take Finland, I think, probably a good game or two to figure out those defensive issues that they're going to have. And again, Connor Hellebuyck is playing lights out. So it's all for Team USA about Connor Hellebuyck in goal because in the playoffs he's had a tendency sometimes to crap the bed for lack of a better word. I don't think he's going to do that this time. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be solid, and with that, I think that they win this first game 4-2. Then Saturday, you've got Saturday, February 15th, you have the two big matchups. You got Finland against Sweden. I think Finland will take care of their arch rivals, and what I think is going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be an up and down the ice game, but Finland's going to win it 5-4. Then you got the big one. You got Canada against USA. This game is going to be in Montreal. It's going to be basically a must win for Canada because they lose game one. So they're going to have to win it if they really think that they're going to have a chance to get in it. For some reason, I think Canada, with them being at home, they'll figure out a way to win this game, but it's going to be in overtime, which will be big for the USA because then that means that they get a point and Canada only gets 2 points. So we'll take Canada in this one 4-3. Then we move on to Boston. Monday, February 17th is the final game of the round robin. Canada takes on Finland. I think Finland will just be too much for Canada by that point in time. They're going to have everything figured out as far as what's going to work for their defense. Canada's going to I think have maybe a little bit of a letdown after beating Team USA as well. And I think Finland rolls over Canada. I got 5-2 in that game. And then you have Sweden against USA, which is basically going to be the with Finland takes care of business in game one earlier in that day. They're going to know that whoever they got to win that game to get in, the loser would probably be out. So that game is going to be crazy. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be good. But I think USA will have enough, and Connor Hellebuyck will deliver the goods. And USA beats Sweden 4-2. So with that, that would make USA 2-0-1 and get 7 points. Finland would be 2-1, getting 6 points. Canada would go 1-1-1, getting 3 points. And Sweden goes 1-2, but they also get 3 points because I have their win being in regulation. But either way, it'd be USA and Finland in the final, and that final is set for, let me find my date here, February 20th. That would be played in Boston. I think that game is going to be crazy good. I could see it going to overtime. I hope it goes to overtime. I don't know how they're doing the overtime, if they're going to go with the NHL 3-on-3 for overtime. I know in the round robin, that's what they're doing. The overtime is going to be 5 minutes, 3-on-3, then they'll go to a shootout. But for this final, I have to look and see by the time we get to that, because we'll have another show in between now and then. I'll make sure that I know what we're doing for that. And it's going to be fun to watch. So February 20th will be that final. It's going to be 4-3, we'll say, in overtime. Why not? For Team USA, of course, because I do think the USA is the best team top to bottom from there. They've got a strong defensive core. They had the best goalie, and usually goalie wins these tournaments. So we'll see. Hopefully that happens. So that is our look there at our Four Nations tournament. And so with that, it's time to take a quick little peek down the road. And as we look down the road, I'm really excited about this because pitchers and catchers are reporting to spring training this week. It means baseball is right around the corner. Baseball is near and dear to my heart, and like I just kind of talked about that earlier. So I am super excited about this. We're getting closer and closer to the baseball season starting. And as we get closer to the baseball season, we'll dive more and more into some different storylines as we get closer into that baseball season. It's fun sport. There's a lot of big name free agents still out there as well. I'll dive more into that here next week too, because we'll have a little bit more time to get into it, which is always interesting. So now we get into that time frame of players that maybe thought that they were going to get the big time money that didn't, and they're out there as spring training opens up, and where do they go, and how do they change those teams? So we'll dive a lot more into this as we get going into the season. So a lot to look forward to as we keep moving on here uh, with everything coming up here. But I can't express enough. If for whatever reason you want to get into hockey, these next 2 weeks are definitely the weeks to do it. The games are going to all be on either TNT or ESPN. They flip flop each day of what's going to be on what. So just check out your local listings, as they always say, for those two. But it should be some really, really good hockey that we're going to see coming up here over these next 2 weeks. Um, I can't express. I'm so happy that they are doing this type of a tournament. I think it is going to be fun to watch. I wish that they would they could easily add in a couple more teams. You could have a team from Russia. You could have a team from the Czech Republic in it. It would make for great hockey for sure if those two teams were in it, especially the Russian team. The Russian team would be completely loaded, but it's kind of their first little tweak at this style of a tournament. So I think only having 4 teams in it makes sense. And unfortunately, like so for political reasons, that's the real reason why Russia is not in it. So we'll see how this goes for everyone. Um, and again, as I'm going to wrap up a little bit early today, I again just want to thank the guys. There is a lot of good shows out here on the Sideline Junkies. So if you get a chance, of course, check out the main guys. Tuesday through Thursday, they bring it every time on the Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. You've got the WrestleManiacs on Friday, and then of course you got In the Passenger Seat with Jack, which is some really, really good interviews that you will see there. So there's all kinds of stuff here for you. I think from what I've seen on people, this is going to be recorded, and then we'll pop it on there for you to add some comments to. I think I must have hit the wrong button after all this was said and done, but we're too far into it to stop now. So thank you all as you listen and watch it, and please put in your comments on the show, and then next week we'll try to be live again. So anyway, with that being said, I say adieu to you for now, and we'll see you guys all next week.